Good morning, everyone. I should make some joke about environmental efforts and the temperature of this room. That is accidental. I will quickly, I thought we'd start with the class committee elections because I know those are eagerly anticipated. Then I'll turn it over to Ms. Lee and Ms. Borken. I just make a very brief observation, though, an editorial, and I know Ms. Lee will speak to it, and that is the connection between civil rights and environmental issues. This is a long-standing and profound connection, and it is really around the globe and certainly in this nation, and it goes back many, many years, particularly the 50s and 60s. So what we're going to be probing as a school Sunday and Monday is a really fascinating connection and one that I don't think every school makes. I'm really looking forward to it. It's a great program. So with that, let me do this. I will announce the committee members. We should withhold applause till I get through the entire group. I would ask that you stand and remain standing. And I will start with the lower mids. And so the lower mid class committee is as follows. Again, please stand. Sunny Ahn, Carolyn Baird, Riley Bragg, James Darling, Emily Drakely, Lauren Fadiman, Andrew Ferrier, Charlie Himmelrich, Nicholas Kennedy, Kevin Mulhern, Jarvie O'Neill, Kyle Salvatore, Emily Weaver, and Kimberly Whipfler. Congratulations. Congratulations to them. And the mid-class committee, again, if you would please stand. Kim Amelsberg, I. Bui, Manny Capice, Tristan Shea, Meme Ewald, Mary Scott Lett, Tom McMullen, Tennant Maxey, Amanda Roberts, Henry Tillman, Paige Whittemore, and Teddy Zellner. And now the upper mid-class committee is as follows, and again, please stand. Jane Andreessen, Jesse Calder, Eli Cooper, Lauren Drakely, David Gaggis, Doug Goldstone, Quentin Harris, Tally Hodges, Colleen Iannone, Vienna Kalin, Bella Ordway, and Jack Torney. Please stand. And I will not ask them to come forward, but I'd like the two new school monitors to turn and face the audience. As you know, we have always added school mons midway through the year. It's a great tradition. It means that there's new blood that's added. It's often someone who has been serving the school or leading in different ways. And it really is wonderful for these two. So I think if we would please acknowledge and ask Legree, Augustine, and Dawson Jones to stand, wherever they are. Are they here? Okay. Congratulations to all of you. Many thanks for all who voted. We had a ton of students taking part in that election, all the elections, so thank you very much for that. Congratulations. And now, Ms. Lee.
So good morning again, Taft. So as I've shared with you before, Ms. Borken and I are here today to speak more about our Martin Luther King 2014 program, which kicks off this Sunday evening, January 19th. And before we speak more in depth about the program, content-wise, I want to spend a few minutes taking care of logistical housekeeping things, especially for newer faculty, newer students, and just everybody. So as you will see on the screen, there's a poster of all of our, you can't see all of it right now, but all of our MLK 2014 program events with event times. These will be posted outside of Bingham. They'll be posted online. They will be posted in the hallways, outside of East Dining Hall, outside of my office, so you'll have access to them if you, in the case that you forget. Yesterday, I sent everybody the full program with all the program descriptions, so you should have everything you need. So, as I said, our program kicks off on Sunday evening here in Bingham Auditorium at 7:30. So this is what will happen. A warning bell will ring at 7:25, letting you know that you have 5 minutes to come into Bingham. Everyone should be in class dress, and you should take your normal seats here in Bingham for that Sunday evening program. Ms. Borken will talk more about the specifics and the content of that. On Monday morning, for those of you that have told me that you want to attend the prayer breakfast, and for those of you that are required to attend the prayer breakfast, if you haven't already, you will receive an email confirmation from me explaining that your tickets will be in your POs by Saturday. By the way, for faculty, there are some of you that I haven't gotten to yet. So if you haven't received an invite, that's why. For those of you, I have a few seats that will be still available. For those of you that are interested, please shoot me an email. So then after our prayer breakfast on a Monday morning, and again, you're required to have a ticket to be there. We will also gather once again on Monday morning here in Bingham for our opening ceremony. And as I shared with you all in an email in December, our opening ceremony on Monday morning will be a tribute to Nelson Mandela. After our opening ceremony, then people will be deployed to their workshops and or up to the athletic facilities for the Young Heroes Middle School program that we have. For those of you that are student and registration assistants for the Young Heroes program, you will receive a confirmation email from me reminding you that we have training on Sunday at 12 p.m. in Prentice Dining Hall. For everyone else, as I've already stated in the emails, on Sunday evening, I will post online and outside of the East Dining Hall and my office all of your workshop room assignments and locations. After your workshops on Monday, then we will come back into Bingham one last time for the day, and we'll end with our closing ceremony, which is our multicultural art celebration, celebrating our Taft community. And again, all the times are on the posters and the such. So if you have any questions, again, you know where to look for information, but you can also shoot me an email or stop by my office if you have any questions. Okay? So now that we've gotten through the logistics, I want to spend a few moments answering the most frequently asked question that I have heard from Taft students about our MLK program this year. And that is, students have asked me, Ms. Lee, what is the connection between Martin Luther King Jr. and our celebrations and global and environmental social action? And really, students have been focusing around the environmental piece. And so while Ms. Borken will hone in on this question in her speech with examples and highlights from our program this year, I want to share with you very briefly an excerpt from a sermon that Dr. King gave in 1967. Now, the sermon was entitled A Christmas Sermon on Peace. And in this sermon, Dr. King was speaking to the challenges of us as a human race obtaining peace on earth, of which his underlying premise was that if we do not understand the interrelatedness of all things, that is, our environment, our ecosystems, and how we as human beings are a part of all that, then we will never obtain peace on earth. So to quote him directly from his speech, he says, quote, "It really boils down to this, that all life is interrelated. We are all caught up in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied into a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. We are made to live together because of the interrelated structure of reality. This is the way our universe is structured. This is its interrelated quality. We aren't going to have peace on earth until we recognize this basic fact of the interrelated structure of all reality." It's just something for us all to think about. And now I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Borken to share more about this idea and the context of the program for this year.
Good morning. Hello. This is really exciting for me. For years, I've hoped to blend my primary interests, and this is that year. MLK social equality issues, along with environmental justice issues. And I'm having the opportunity to engage with you after a number of other great environmental speakers this year. Dr. Suzuki and Dr. Safina have both shared with you their views on the need for environmentally focused culture. But we will see the connection to social equality as we move into the theme of environmental justice this weekend. So before I get into the MLK stuff, I wanted to share with you a little bit more about my interests and focus. As some of you may know, I completed my master's at Duke 3 years ago, and my degree was in environmental management, but my thesis was focused on environmental justice. Why I've been so interested in environmental justice is that it connects two really important themes: how we preserve the earth and how we preserve equality among people. Let me explain the concept using the example of energy. Slide, please. Energy production is often connected with environmental justice discussions. Why? Because most of the energy produced around the nation is done so with dirty fuel sources. The dirty part is the environmental part. The justice part is why do only certain people have to deal with the dirty part? If we all need energy, why is it that only a small subset of energy consumers actually deal with the negative costs of power production? For all you econ students, you remember externalities? This is it. How did those particular people end up being the chosen ones? Did they want to be put in that situation? Can they get themselves out of that situation if they choose to? And most importantly, how does this relate to us? I'm sure if most of us had the choice to live near a coal or oil burning power plant, we would choose not to. But the choice is not always available for all people. And the lack of choice is often dictated by our behavior. Slide, please. There's an organization called Earth Justice, and they look specifically at where energy production takes place. I'm sorry, I think you're a slide ahead. Sorry, back up one. There we go. They look specifically at where energy production takes place around the nation, and they look at the correlations or patterns between the demographics of people living near power plants, specifically at things like health statistics, economic information, race, etc. For example, their research shows that 70% of all African Americans live within 30 miles of coal-fired power plants. And why did Earth Justice pick 30 miles? Because that is the distance where the maximum effects of fumes from coal pollution is felt. Effects like asthma, lung cancer, heart attacks, and heart disease. Effects like increased temperatures and what is sometimes called heat islands, because the particles released from the power plants trap solar heat well. Effects like acid rain and smog interrupting the sun's natural path of light to the earth and discouraging people from being outside, affecting their vitamin D production. This statistic of 70% of African Americans is 15% higher than what Caucasians are exposed to, with only 55% of white people living within 30 miles of a power plant. That's a significant difference. So why are power plants found within these populations? These areas are usually places that are already poor. The land is cheap, and so it's a good business plan for the company. And since the people are poor, they rarely have any political clout. They are swayed by the company's promise of good-paying jobs, and more than they are connected with the possible health effects down the road. Slide. So let's take a look now at the South Bronx. Only about an hour and 20 minutes from Taft, the South Bronx is a very different set of cards than Watertown. 40% of the population lives below the poverty line, 39% is black, and 60% is Hispanic. There are 4 power plants, as well as 15 waste transfer stations. Approximately 20% of all children in the South Bronx have asthma, a rate 5 times higher than the level in more affluent parts of New York City. Between the power plants and the hundreds of trucks that daily schlep trash to the waste transfer stations, it is not hard to see why air pollution illness is so prevalent in these communities. So who would want to live here? And if people don't want to go to the South Bronx, how do they expect to have more money coming to the community to work their way out of poverty? This community is less than 100 miles away. Students of the South Bronx today are asking us, why us? This community is taking the brunt of the economic and health effects while we get our trash picked up and power to our iPads every day, while we breathe fine, we play outdoors, and we have cash left over for ordering pizza. Do you see all the problems here? Next slide. I became very familiar with the South Bronx through my master's work, and it led me to Majora Carter. Oh, Majora. She's amazing. I hope you all fall in love with her as much as I have when you get to meet her on Sunday. Named one of the top 50 visionaries who is changing the world, she began small, working to create a cleaner and healthier South Bronx by training individuals for jobs outside the power plants and waste transfer industries. The neighborhood is starting to work away from the dirtier economy as they develop more parks, more LEED buildings like our dining hall, more food production sites and urban farms, and more bike-friendly transportation. She gets it. Really and truly understanding equality among all people and the right to a clean environment. And she gets the connection between the environment and MLK Day, as she was the keynote speaker at the Middlebury MLK Day event last year. I hope you all enjoy as much as I do when you hear her this weekend. I don't keep too many quotes in my head or around my space, but as I sat down to first work on this speech, I realized that the only quote I have hanging in my office is actually an MLK quote. It reads, "An individual has not started living until he can rise above the narrow confines of his individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of all humanity." I copied this quote down years ago when I first began to understand where our energy came from at Taft. We are now a 100% green energy school, even recognized by the EPA through their Green Power Partnership as one of the top 20 K-12 schools in the nation for our green power use. And we're actually ahead of Hotchkiss, too, which is pretty nice. I think we're ranked number 5, but the new rankings haven't come out yet for the next term. But we once purchased what was called brown power, which is power that comes from fossil fuel supplies. I decided to look exactly what MLK spoke of, rising above my need for power to discover what impacts of my power usage were. Our power at Taft now comes primarily from wind farms in Texas, but we used to purchase all of our power locally from not such clean sources. Let's make a little chain of stakeholders here by tracing our utilities. Slide, please. Power was supplied to Taft each month by a utility called CL&P. They get their power through a supplier called TransCanada, and TransCanada happens to own 4 power facilities in New England, the 2 closest to us being found in Rhode Island, which is the Ocean State Power on the right, and in Queens, which is the Ravenswood Power Plant. Let's first look at the facility in Rhode Island. It's called Ocean State Power, and this power plant runs off of natural gas. Natural gas burns relatively cleanly, so we're not going to focus on the effects of the power plant in this case. Instead, I want to focus on the fuel source. Slide, please. Natural gas that feeds into New England comes from 3 places: the Gulf of Mexico, Alberta, Canada, and Pennsylvania. There's a huge supply of natural gas under New York and Pennsylvania called the Marcellus Shale, which some of you may live directly underneath. Or on top of, I'm sorry. Hopefully you don't live underneath it. It's a massive natural gas supply that could be a $1 trillion industry and supply the entire U.S. with power for 2 years. While natural gas burns quite cleanly, the extraction of the gas is what's concerning. Next slide. The extraction of natural gas is called fracking. Fracking requires pumping massive amounts of water into the earth, which then forces the gas back up through pipes. It has been suggested the problem here is 2 things. 1, the water used is meant to be for the community to drink, and 2, that the water that's pumped into the earth is full of chemicals. Only about half of the water that's pumped into the ground is eventually recovered, so the other half, still ridden with chemicals like arsenic and lead, as well as some of the gas, leaches back into the water supply. Some communities have seen huge levels of arsenic poisoning. Sometimes they even think their spouse is trying to kill them. Other towns have actually seen high gas levels in their water to the point that they can actually set their tap on fire. So using electricity at Taft supported the drilling of natural gas in Pennsylvania, sickening communities of people who don't have the power to fight large companies and don't have the money or the desire to move. Those of you who have signed up for Gasland's workshop will continue this controversial dialogue on fracking, but you'll need to consider if your energy is as important as risking the drinking supply of our neighbors. The other power plant that I showed you earlier was in Queens, and it has some different issues. It's a coal-burning power plant. The coal that this plant purchases is from 2 areas, Venezuela and West Virginia. Venezuela is a complicated issue, so let's just focus on the domestic issue right now. Next slide. Coal mining in West Virginia has a long and sad history. You can see here there are hundreds of mines that take place throughout the state. Environmentally, you can see that a great issue with the ecosystem devastation that's occurring here, often due to mountaintop removal techniques. But there are also huge social issues as well. Mining, like natural gas drilling, leaches many chemicals into the drinking water, but also produces cancer-causing soot. Next slide. So I want to introduce you to one last person. This is Judy Bonds. And Majora Carter introduced me to Judy several years ago at a conference when Majora told us about all the wonderful work Judy had done protesting further mining in West Virginia. She had seen firsthand the devastating health effects of coal mining in her community. Her father had died of the black lung after working in a coal mine his whole life. Her own grandson is highly asthmatic. And regardless of her immense efforts, Judy Bonds died January 3rd, 2011, from lung cancer. She was not a smoker. She just lived in a coal mining town. And she was only 58 years old. Last slide here. I hope you can understand the significance of the issue to me. I'm so proud now that we have become such a green school that is built on service, and we learn to serve others in our nation by saying we do not need to live above anyone. We should all have access to the clean world, which means no one should be forced to live in a dirty one. I hope over the next few days, as you meet leaders like Majora Carter and our other great speakers, you are inspired to make choices that are good for you and all others. Be smart about how you use your energy, turn off your lights, but most importantly, think about the decisions you make and the impact of others in everything you do. To say that quote again, an individual has not started living until he rises above the narrow confines of his individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of all humanity. Have a wonderful MLK Day, and please feel free to seek Ms. Lee or myself out after the event if you have further questions about environmental justice. Have a great Thursday. Thank you.